So we want to check the connection. We're going to solve it in a moment, okay? We want to check the connection status, and we have a command to do that, a Barman replication status, okay, that show us that we are connected to Paul, okay, and we are streaming from Paul, okay. Then we can analyze the status of the server Paul. This is a command that basically summarizes all the server information. Okay. So we have a description I put manually, that is active, that the version of Postgres, the cluster, the data directory for Postgres, the current segment that is running on Postgres. Barman connect to Postgres and ask question, and this is the result of the questioning from Barman. Okay. Then, more importantly, we can see the whole set of configuration from. Okay, I am having problems repeating the same lines because of probably the projector. Okay, so but you can see that these are all the options that you can find inside a server that are basically configuration we created in the beginning for the server. So, for example, where the WAL files are placed once they are archived, so var lib, barman, poll, WAL directory. This is the archive of the whole WALs from poll. Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory, okay? And you can see a lot of information using the show server command. But the most important thing that we want to do now is this. Okay. Executing this command, that is barman switch WAL less minus minus archive minus minus forts poll. What is going to happen is this. We are going to solve the first error that we was having on the Barman check output, okay? Why? Because we asked to Barman to close the current WAL on the pool server, obviously, and to wait for the WAL to be delivered and archived. Because the error we were receiving before is everything is okay, but we are archiving nothing, okay? Now we ask it to stop the first WAL, okay, the current WAL, okay, and to archive it. So you see the WAL file with this name, okay, has been closed on the server pool. Now waits for the file to be closed. If in the case of the archive command, it can take a couple of seconds because it requires for server to send the WAL file. In case of the streaming, it's instant, okay. By default, it waits for 30 seconds. You can change the time, okay? And the WAL have been received, so we can see processing with load segment for streaming for poll. And the WAL now is in the WAL archive. So Barman is working. How can we sure everything is green? Okay? So Barman is up and running. Another important thing that I forgot to say. No, I didn't forget. I reserved for now. We did everything as root, but everything had been executed as Barman, because Barman is smart enough to, drop the privilege. If it recognizes that it's root, drop the privilege and use the Barman user to do that. So it's a shortcut for not being forced, to be Barman to execute a Barman check, for example, okay, or for a switch it's low. And for your safety also. Okay, so Barman is actually working. We have checked that everything is working. We can also look, if you want, at the Nagios output. That basically say that we are ready to receive WAL and executing backup. Okay, express backup. Okay. And we want at least one backup at the moment, okay? So one thing that we can do is setting inside the configuration for Barman a minimum amount of backup that we want always to be present on the server, okay? So, for example, maybe if I write on the shell is better, we etc barman.conf. Why I'm writing this here? Because I want this setting to be shared with all the servers that we can configure here. So if you write it in the general Barman configuration, most of the commands are inherited from the servers. And you can override them on the single server configuration file. So we're going to set a redundancy now, but if you don't want it on a specific server, you can disable that on that server, maintaining the general rule for all the other servers, okay? So what we want to add is this. In the end of the file, we want to add not set. Okay, this one. So minimum redundancy 1. Okay, mean that we expect to have always one backup. We are going to talk about this later, but if you look a couple of lines over the line I've already passed it, okay, you can see there is retention policy redundancy 2. This is another thing. This means that we always want to have 2 backups, and when we have the third, the oldest is deleted. These 2 totally separated things, okay?
One is maximum, the other is minimum.
Yes, more or less, yes. So, okay, we want to save this, execute the check, and now it's failing because we don't have at least one backup. One important thing, there are some checks that are going to block your ability to execute backup. For example, the archiving one that was failing before because we were not receiving WAL is a blocking one, because you don't want to start a backup without receiving WALs, okay, for your safety. But the minimum redundancy requirement is not a blocking one, because it would be stupid if I stop you from taking a backup when I want to have a backup. Okay? So, just to be sure that everything is okay, it fails on Nagios, obviously. Okay. And now I'm happy to announce you that after all this talking, we are ready to execute our first backup. How difficult is to take a backup of a server? 3 words. Let's give a moment to...
Can you do all?
What?
Can you do all the backups that are defined? If you have another server?
This is a statement for a complete backup.
Yeah, but if you have more than one server?
Yeah, you can execute the all. Yes, all is a shortcut. I was going to explain that later, but there are shortcuts inside Barman, like the keyword all, or the keyword latest, or the keyword oldest, okay, that show you all the servers, the latest backup, the oldest backup, for example. Yeah, go.
This is the backup related to some bucket, 60 people.
The answer. No, sorry.
Can you send the packet from
The packets from the, sorry, yes, you can compress them. There's an option in the Barman, basically user sync with the -z option that compress the packets. So you can save packets on the network, and you can always limit the network traffic. There is an option in the Barman that allow you to limit the amount of traffic. Obviously, you're going to lose, a bit of time because you limit the bandwidth. But yes, but
You didn't mean the back. S3. Il backup of the S3.
okay, sorry. I thought I misunderstood what you said.
This is also useful information.
But, okay. So thank you, Gianni. Thank you. Sorry. The buckets on S3, yes. We are working on a version of Barman that is going to interact directly with the cloud. But it's going to probably be the 2.9 or the Barman free version, because we are working on it. It is currently under development. But there is a trick. You can use hook scripts. Hook scripts are the ability of Barman to executing script that you wrote to do specific action. I explained today, for example, that we have 4 kinds of hook script: pre-backup, post-backup, a pre-archiving, post-archiving. So you can set, for example, a post-archive script, and we have also the retry version that tries to execute the same action until you say so, okay, for receiving a wall and copying it on S3. So we have a hook, but at the moment, it's up to you. There are scripts that, example of script that do that, okay, but it's possible, yes. And we're working on a version that will do that automatically, okay?
One question, Giulio. The strategy of using hooks
Mm.
to make a backup to the cloud,
Mm-hmm.
you have already examples that you know? Is it
We have customers that do that. I'm not sure I can disclose the name, but
No, not the name. I want to know the Boolean.
no. Yes, true.
Yes or no?
True.
In reality, I know the answer.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting for the
Yeah.
other people to know that it's already, it's not that we can do it. It's already some people
Yeah.
of our customers are doing it.
We have, okay, part of the screensaver, sorry. We can do it, we do it.
Already.
Okay, so we know that it works. Okay.
No.
Yeah, it's known.
But of course, it's better when Barman will have the feature, it will be easier
Okay.
for managing it.
Okay, let's move over because it's time, okay? So we want to, okay, let's have a look at the backup because, okay, we said that we executed a backup. Let's look at the output for a second. Barman starting a backup using a sync. Okay, for Paul, this is where on your file system the backup is placed. Okay, as you see, there is a pattern. Okay, this is the Barman home that was showing you before, valid Barman. Okay, then inside your Barman home, you're gonna always find a folder with the name of the server. Base is going to contain the base backup, wall is going to contain the wall archive, incoming of the wall from the wall archive, streaming from the streaming connection. Is, a pattern. You can play using configuration, moving things around the file system. I don't suggest to do that, but it could be useful. Okay. This is the first backup for the server pool. The first thing that Barman does is, removing useless wall file, because we received word file, but we didn't have a backup. So these free word files are useless. Okay? So now start the copy. Obviously, the server is almost empty, so 5 seconds. It takes its time. Asking Postgres to finalize the backup. This means that basically Barman issued a PG stop backup on the server. So the server exits from the backup state. So backup is ended, and now he archived the new wall that he received while he was doing the backup. Okay, so let's look at the list of the backup for the separate poll. We have poll, then the ID of the backup is pretty simple to understand. There are 2090, June 21, and 16. Okay, so you can just, having a look at the name and at the time, they're the same thing. Size of the backup, and obviously 0 megabyte of wall file because we received one, but it's part of the backup. So for now, we have no wall file. Another important thing, I was talking about shortcut before. Okay, so Barman show backup latest. It's basically like calling Barman show backup poll, like poll and the ID, but I don't want to copy the ID. I know that this is the latest backup. It's also the oldest backup, okay, but, And here we have important information on our backup, like, for example, disk usage. Incremental size, at the moment we have only one backup, so there is no incremental size, okay? When it started, when it ended, the compression of the walls, started, finished, how long it takes to do that, and to output on the network, a lot of information that are pretty much self-explanatory, okay? Okay.
File remove from origin, when you do it for another backup, also remove here, or you can persist there?
No, I didn't understand. No, it's me. I'm half deaf, seriously. So you shout, I try to understand you.
If the file you remove from origin, and you do it another backup, the next backup.
Yeah, there's another folder. So everything is separated. And when you use the incremental backup, I'm going to show you right now, files are linked. So basically, the file is not removed from your file system until it's not necessary anymore. And we're going to copy only the files that are changed. So we're going to save bandwidth, and we're going to save space. I'm going to show you in a second.
Is your question about the buckets and the cloud, or is it just about the way?
No, it was about that. This time, you didn't. Thank you, Gianni. Okay, so we were here, okay, and we have this, okay, at the moment. So let's move to incremental backup. I said I'm going to talk about that now. The goals of incremental backup are too much. Okay. The goals of incremental backup are setting up Barman to be more space efficient. Okay. So incremental backup concept that I'm going to explain you. Incremental backup option. We have two options: copy and link. I'm going to show you how it works. Okay. So we want to enable the incremental backup, and we are already inside the Barman D folder. So vi poll, okay, and we can change a bit of things. For example, we can enable this. As you can see, with this is better. Okay, you can see we have incremental backup support. Okay, possible values are known, so no incremental. Okay, link or copy. I just explained to you that we can hard link stuff. This is the link option, and this is the most used one because we want to save bandwidth and space. There is the copy option. For example, you have no problem on space because your backup is small, for example, but you want to save bandwidth because you pay for it, for example. you can just copy the difference from the remote server and then copy the file instead of using the hard link, okay, on the new folder. So in the end, you're going to have no hard link, but physical files, okay? Depends on you and in your use case, okay? These are the two options for the reuse backup. Basically, what was important to understand about the reuse backup is what I explained to you 1 moment ago. So this is for save space, and why this? Because obviously dependent on how much things change on your database, okay? But if your database have a lot of traffic, but usually change always the same tables, basically a huge amount of files of your data directory are not going to change, okay? So we can have a gain of space around 50, 70%. That it's huge if you think about terabytes of database, especially when you're going to handle 10 terabytes of database. Yeah, you don't want to copy every time, every day, 10 terabytes and store 10 terabytes. So this is really useful in the case of really big database. Okay. So basically, all that is required to do is enable this option. Okay. We can execute another backup. Let's see what happens. One second. There were 5 seconds. Now 1 second. This is pretty much self-explanatory. It's working. But how can I be sure of the fact that it's working? Actually, you see, backup size 181 megabyte, okay? Actual size on disk 8.8 kilobyte, because basically the backup is the same, okay? I wanted to show you an extreme example, but this is actually a full backup because you have hard links, okay? So if we show Barman list minus backup pound latest, now it's going to take this one. Or list backup, sorry. Okay, it's show backup latest. List backup is going to list the 2 backups, okay? And what I wanted to do, you see, Barman is enough smart to understand that the latest is not required, and so, okay, you want to see the list of the backups. Let me show you the list, okay? And what I wanted to do instead is this one, sorry. Barman show poll latest. Also last is okay. 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 So in this case, you're going to see that what I was explaining before, the incremental size, 100%. Then we have all the information on all files and stuff. So incremental backup is in place and is working, okay? Let's see, we were talking about directory before, okay? Let me show you. Barman show server, that was the option that show all the directories and all the configuration. We want to see only the one related to the directories. Okay, so we have these directories, and in the base backup directory that you see, it's base, there are the hard link files between the two folders. Okay? So for example, let's have a look at the base backup directory. Okay, and ls, la. You see both the folders. Maybe blue is not the best color on a black background, sorry. We want to okay, ls, and the latest backup is this one. Okay, we want to see what's inside the folder. You can see that there is a file that is backup info that is created by Barman. Okay, that keeps all the relevant info about the backup. For example, let me show you. Backup from fall, the offset, the status of the configuration option, start time and time. Part of this information are showed in the show backup command. Okay, and the status of the backup, and everything is okay. And then we have the data directory inside the data folder. Okay, last thing I want to show you is the u-hs that show the dimension of the folders, ignoring tab links. If we had hsl, then you can see that effectively the dimension is the same. Okay? So, we were talking about incremental backups. Let's move over and let's talk about remote recovery. Okay, because we have backup, now we have to use them. Okay, so this is the starting architecture. Okay, and we are going to use John for recovering the backup because, as I explained today, a backup is not a backup if it's not tested. Maybe it's a bit, too strong as an information, but it's better for you if you test your backup. Okay? Let's see how it's possible to do that using Barman Recover. So what we want to do is execute a remote recovery on John. Set up John new cluster as poll standby. Okay? Setting on demand while fetching. What this means? There is no direct connection between Paul and John, but John is going to use Barman to fetch the WAL files and reach the same point as Paul. Okay, so this is basically what we're going to achieve, and is basically an indirect, not direct standby, but is a standby. Okay, and continue to fetch continuously from Barman, so there is a bit of delay, but for executing operation on reading, for example, or business intelligence operation that don't require the latest version of the data is enough. Okay, so let's see how this is possible. Okay. We are on George. Well, we want instead to go on Paul as first. No, we want to go on John because we want to stop the Postgres server on John that is going to receive the backup. Okay, we are on John, and we want to be root. Now, what we want to do is to stop Postgres, okay? So, systemctl stop PostgreSQL. That's enough, okay? And for the moment, we have finished with Paul, okay? We want to return on George at the moment, so, okay, and we want to go to George. Okay, and we want to be Barman. And we want to give a really quick look, because time is running, to the recovery help. It's going to repeat all the same stuff. No, okay, this time working. This is the recovery command with all the possible options. You can see them using -help or inside the man. So not going to go in details inside the recovery, but you see there are a lot of options that allow you to, create custom and optimized recovery options. Okay, so a question for you now. You saw how you can execute a backup. It's 3 words. How complex could be to recover a server? Just try it. It's not 4 words. It's a bit more complex. But why I asked you this? Because one thing that we kept in mind when we designed Barman is to keep the interface simple. Because when you are put under pressure because you are in a disaster situation, you don't want to waste your time, searching for hidden options or thinking too much on how complex your command is. So, executing a backup, it's simple. Executing a recovery, it's a bit more complex. But, you can read it better, but it's a bit more complex, but not that much. Let me explain. We have Barman recover, like Barman backup. Then we use get-wall. This option basically already creates the recovery conf file that tells to the standby that we're going to create that they have to fetch the wall files from Barman, okay, and creates already the command. So Barman takes all the action that is required to do that, okay? Then create a standby mode. So if the server is already configured to start as a standby, to drop to execute the copy, okay? Remote SSH command is basically the SSH command that allow you to connect to John in this case, okay? Poll last, and you can see the full line, but it's the destination. In this case, is var lib PostgreSQL. I don't know why it doesn't show the full line. No, I cannot move. Hopefully, it's correct. Hopefully. Okay, but var lib PostgreSQL 11 data. Yeah, it's correct. You can see starting remote restore from server poll using backup latest. Okay, on the snapshot directory, the directory that I was hoping was written correctly. Okay, using the remote command that I specified, copying the base backup, generate a recovery conf, and as a final service, when you execute a recovery, Barman reads your configuration file and automatically disable all the options that could be potentially dangerous, like, for example, the archive command. We don't want to start a standby that tries to archive stuff. It's not possible, but, So, these settings have been modified to prevent data loss. PostgreSQL conf line 725 archive command false. And we are totally fine with this. Warning, at wall is specified the recovery option. Before you start PostgreSQL server, review recovery conf file. And we are going to do that. Okay, so a lot of output to say, I've done it, and please look at these files and check that everything is in place. So is exactly what I'm going to do is this, SSH Postgres at John.
When you're running the remote command, you are doing it from George in this case?
George is Barman.
George is Barman. So
John is the receiver of.
yeah, so when it says remote command, it's going to be run from George.
From George, yes, because it's a push.
Yeah.
You push the backup on the server.
Because you are always doing from Paul to George to John. You are never
Yeah,
doing nothing.
you pull from Paul and you push to John.
But you never connect.
No. This is recovery is always a push option.
Okay.
Yeah, and a push action, and a backup is always a pull action.
Yes, but I mean you are not like.
You cannot connect directly. No, Barman is always but on part.
I just need to check because it's called like remote command, but it's run from.
Yeah, you could copy directly, but not using Barman.
Yeah.
Okay, because the purpose of this is having a single point of failure on purpose. Why this? Because Barman is a single point of failure. If you lose Barman, you lose the backup, but your server is still up. Okay, you don't want to mess a lot, moving stuff around.
It makes sense. It was just the name.
No, it's a good question.
The remote command. So
Yeah, but that was a good question. Okay, we are on John. Yes, we are on John. And we want to have a look at the data directory that is varlib. I'm going to copy and paste it, sorry. Give me a second, sorry. And this is basically why I hate live demo. Okay. Okay, so we are in the data directory. ls-la. This is exactly what was inside the data directory, inside the base directory, inside the Paul folder, okay, on Barman. We have a couple of files that we want to have a look at. And for example, this cat point Barman recovery info. That is like the backup info I showed you, but is hidden and is used by Barman if you try to override this to, understand what's going on and what happened before acting, okay? Then, let me see. We want to have a check of the changes that were suggested. This PostgreSQL conf origin and PostgreSQL conf, okay? And you can see we were having archive command true, and Barman suggested to use archive command false. Pretty easy, basic. And we are okay to doing this at the moment because Barman gives suggestion, but we substitute the file. Okay, and we can remove PostgreSQL autoconf because it's not necessary. Okay, so we have a clean data directory. We can have a look at one file that is the backup label, that all the information on the latest backup have been executed. And now we want to look, like Barman suggested, to look at the recovery conf file. Let me clean the screen, it's easier. Okay. This is created by Barman. Okay? And you can clearly see two things. This is a standby. okay, standby mode on. And the restore command is Barman word restore minus u Barman, so the user, server George, server Postgres server Paul, give me the whole files. Okay? What does it mean? That every time that Postgres starting up tries to recover a whole file, okay, it will fetch the whole file from Barman using the Barman word restore script. Easier? The Barman word restore script is part of the Barman CLE package. Okay? Let's start Postgres. We are John, George, and we want to go to John. We want to be root, and instead of stop, easy. Let's start it again. We want to look at the log file, and the database system is starting up. So it's working. Now we have basically only the world that have been moved by the backup, okay? Because the whole files that are part of the backup are copied with the backup, because you cannot even start the server without them. All the worlds that are from the stop of the backup until now are fetched using getWall, okay? So we have no wall at the moment, but database system is up and running, okay? Cool. So sudo IU Postgres, and we are going to be Postgres again. We want to have a look on the database, so PSQL. Obviously, the startup have been fast because everything is small, okay? So we want to see that we have the PG bench database that's been initialized on the other server. So this is effectively a copy of the master. Perfect. Good. Obviously, another thing that we want to show you is the fact that this is a standby. So transaction read only. Okay? And I think nothing useful have to be shown here. Yeah, okay, we can stop at the moment. Okay, we can stop Postgres. Okay, sorry. I was still Postgres. I have to be root, so we want to stop PostgreSQL. We want to go again inside the PG data. Okay, let's have a look at the Barman word restore command. You see Barman word restore --help. And you can see all the options that are possible. One of the interesting is this one, -p jobs, how many jobs in parallel you can use to fetch from the Barman. In this specific case, is not that important, okay? But when you have a huge database, a huge amount of world file that recover, you want to fetch, for example, 8 world files at a time, not only one. You can also add other options like compression, gzip or bzip option, and other, you can test the connection, and we can add also another option that is for sleeping. You see seconds, S seconds, sleep seconds after a failure in the get ball fetch. But for example, you won't try to fetch a wall that yet have not been shipped from the original master. You want to wait, for example, 10 seconds before trying again. Okay? So let's add this option that I show you. That's why I returned inside the data directory, and I stop at Postgres. Okay? Okay. So we want to add to the command the option for compress using gzip, for example, because we have compressed the gzip file. Okay, we want to be, to maintain that. 8 workers and sleeping for 10 seconds. Okay, so to do that, we can add them here, and minus z, that is gzip, minus s, that I show you, that is sleeping, 10, and minus p, parallel jobs, 8, because I said 8, I want to maintain 8, okay? We're done. As you can see, an important pattern in all the commands, in all the configuration file, and everything, we try to keep it as simple as possible. Because we try to use always the same letters along all the script. So minus z is going to be always gzip compression. It's going to be gzip compression on the recovery, it's going to be gzip compression on Barman, it will be the gzip compression in the cloud version that we are developing now. Okay. And this is something we think a lot about, because we had our share of people panicking because stuff was maybe too much complex, or used to think that didn't have the time to read the manual. Okay, so it's like, muscle memory. Yeah, minus z is always gzip. You know that, you use that. All this while I was copy and pasting the restart command for Postgres. So, hopefully, Postgres is running again. Yeah, database system is up and running. As I said, it's pretty fast at the moment. Okay, so we have, in fact, reached this. Okay? Let's add another step to this. We want wall streaming between the two servers. So the goal is exactly to connect John as standby to Paul. Okay? So we can achieve that setting up wall streaming between the two servers. So not only we're going to fetch from Barman, but we're going to use a direct connection over the wall streaming. Why this? Why we keep the fetching from Barman? Because for whatever reason we lose the connection with the master, we can continue to recover, and we'll be always up to speed using Barman as wall up, or vice versa. If you lose the connection with Barman, you always have the direct connection to the master. Obviously, the direct connection to the master is the preferred one. Okay? So this is where we want to go. How we can do that is not that difficult. Okay, so we need to go on Paul first. Why on Paul? Because we want to tell Paul that he has to receive a connection. Okay, so SSH variant. Okay. Good. Then we want to be Postgres user. Okay. And as before, I'm going to use pvgen. Why? Because I want to create a user for the connection from John. So I'm going to create this and I'm going to save it because I'm going to use later for the PG pass connection, because we're going to use the PG pass from John to Paul to passwordless connection. We're going to create a user replication streaming standby using the new password. Okay, perfect. And we are done here. Now we want to connect to John again. Okay. And we want to be Postgres again. Okay. And we want to okay. So this name was Paul. The port 542, all the databases, and the username was streaming standby. Okay. And the password is the one that I saved before. Okay? Cool. Let's see if this time I've been a good DBA or I messed up. I messed up. The password is not correct. Huh. And I even copied it. Let's return. Okay. What I have to do now is to update the user streaming backup, because I failed in creating the user. Probably I messed up in copying and pasting stuff. Okay? And we are connected to role. No, you can see, okay.
You want to change the password?
Yeah, you have to change the password.
Backslash password username. Backslash password
Okay, yeah.
username.
Yeah, thank you. The user was, I have to be sure to use the correct, yes, thank you.
Then backslash DU to see the list of users.
No, I have already,
Alright.
okay. Streaming standby. And the new password, I want to be sure in this case to copy the correct one, is this, and is this again.
Cool.
Okay, let the U streaming standby, it's there. Thank you. We're going to return to John, and we tried this the last time because they said to me that time is over. before, even if it's going to fail, I'm going to show you what you can do. So I'm going to run through the slides just to give you an impression. But one important thing, I'm going to release as PDF my slides, and in the latest slides, there is a set of videos that are taken using a cinema, okay, that show you everything I've done so far, and is also interactive because you can copy and paste from the videos. So that's why I'm quite, not disappointed, more than I would like to. Okay, now it's working. Okay, let's return to the slides. Okay, sorry for being, too much chatty. Okay. We were here. We set up the connection. We should have restarted John and update the recovery conf file to set up the connection, the streaming connection to the master. What can we do after? We are near the end, okay? What can we do is to try to achieve zero data loss. It is pretty simple, okay? Because the goals is achieving zero data loss using the architecture that we built so far, and to do that, we need to use the synchronous standby, okay, from the master and from Barman. So what we are going to set up is a synchronous connection, yes, 1 minute, okay, synchronous connection using the same architecture, setting up for zero data loss. Like it's one line that you have to add to the configuration file. Doing so, when a transaction is executed, that is readable and committed only when it's readable here and be committed here. Okay, so you can recover without losing data. And this is the latest file. Why we add also Ringo? Okay, because we want to connect Barman to another Barman on another data center and backup your backup on another data center. Why this? For example, we have Paul, John, okay, an infrastructure we set up, and we want to sync Barman with another Barman that is, for example, in the US, and this is in Europe. Why? Because from that you can do, there is more. From that you can do this, create a new server, BERT, that is not related to them, but uses the same data for starting, or you can create another kind of interaction. For example, Barman backup on George from Paul, and John on Ringo, and the two Barman can share the two backups, because if you're going to lose the data center in the US, you can recreate on the fly in the AU and vice versa. Okay? Quickly, other Barman features. Backup frequency, you can set up a backup, Barman all. Okay, Barman backup all, like we were saying before. Retention policies that said, remove backup when hold, based on redundancy, or on a window. Okay, 2 weeks worth of data. Archive command, I already explained. Streaming backup already explained. So it's like the backup that doesn't use rsync, but use the streaming technology. Point-in-time recovery, you can recover at a specific point in time, defining a target. In the future, as I was saying before, direct cloud storage, okay, from the next version, Barman Cloud Ball Archive, Barman Cloud Ball Restore, Barman Cloud Backup, Barman Cloud Recover. In 2.10 or 3, probably we're going to add a multi-tier setup for retention policies, like, for example, you have local compressed backup, and you can move when it's outside the recovery window, you can move on the cloud. So you have a local backup, and when it's too old, you copy it automatically on, on the cloud. Thank you. As promised, this is the list of the video. It's not important to copy them because I know I'm going to post this on Twitter probably in a couple of hours or tomorrow. I am, as master on Twitter, okay? So this is everything related to videos, and this is enough.
You will post this on Twitter?
Yeah, the PDF version.
And if you follow second quadrant,
Yeah, they will retweet.
account, we will retweet Giulio.
Uh,
Because we like him.
I would like to thank the Beatles, okay, and all the Barman team that is not here with me, Rubens and Anna, to my colleagues for the Ansible automation, and the round number 6, that is don't take yourself too seriously. That is important when you do this kind of thing, especially when stuff not working. And you for surviving and not falling asleep during this talk. And enough.